When Kobe and I decided to create a podcast and coined it the Father Son Podcast, most would feel this is a gimmick for the podcast, and that couldn't be further from the truth. From the day Kobe was born, I introduced him to video games. This was a way of life for me, as I can remember my father buying me the Odyssey home system, where the cellophane field that clung to the TV determined what game you were playing. Kobe's love for video games grew, as did the bond of a father and a son. When I introduced him to online play, his world opened to new heights. He learned quickly that the incredible gaming experience wasn't just something shared between a father and a son, but there was an entire world that shared his passion for gaming. Gaming was just part of his upbringing, as school or sports was. We always made arrangements that a video game experience was just an arm's length away, even when we went on vacation. As Kobe got older, our experience took us to the road, experiencing events like the Great E3 to more modern events like Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Experience, IGN, and PAX. Kobe graduated from college and now works in the video game industry on the Xbox team. So, as you can see, it was nothing but natural progression to now share our experience and love of the industry through our podcast. Now sit back and enjoy the ride.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. My name is Kobe, aka Kobe127. That is Kevin, aka Octane699. Happy Monday to all. Dad, how you doing?
Not too bad. Actually, over the weekend, I streamed a little bit and I played Arc Raiders for the first time.
Did you get any good loot?
I did. Dan from Planet Retro was kind enough to walk me through my first playthrough, and I actually liked it. I'll probably get on this week, possibly, and stream a little bit more, but I thought it was really fun. It was a game I didn't think that I would like, but I ended up liking it a lot.
Do you think all the hype is worth it?
Yes. Again, I see a lot of parallels to Rust. I used to be a big Rust player, and I see a lot of parallels to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still playing Arc Raiders. I'm still very much hooked on it. I didn't think I was gonna put 100 hours into the game already, which is probably low to some people at this point. But yeah, it's just one that I'm addicted to the gameplay loop. Last night, I stayed up way too late. I went to bed at 1 a.m., but I did roll credits on Hades 2 finally. So
nice.
Got the first ending of that game, and now the post game and epilogue has opened. So I'm gonna try to see if I want to invest the time in the grind for Hades 2's epilogue, because I know there's a lot of requirements for it, and it's going to be a lot. But I feel proud. I finished the main story in 25 hours, which is apparently somewhat quick for the game. So I was absolutely steamrolling through all the bosses last night. But hello to Bombay. Hello to Cherry Tomato Boy. Welcome. Happy Monday. Yeah, today is going to be a heavy topic. It's going to be all about AI. I think it's time that we have this conversation. It's here. It's in the gaming industry, and I want to kind of go into AI and have a nuanced conversation about it.
I just want to say that again, we're gonna give some of our opinions, but this whole topic, we want to educate everybody, because I think AI is used so loosely anymore, and understand what ChatGPT is and what AI means and how does it affect your daily life, and then how does it affect gaming, of course, and hopefully, our opinion will help you form your opinion. But we want to educate everybody first. It's not hardcore. This is how we feel. Like we feel we want to build the foundation first of what it is, and then give you what we feel, and hopefully you can form your own opinion from it.
Yes, and chat, please do be interactive with this one. If you have used AI in your life and work, whatever, if you have opinions, if you have any knowledge about it, please share it in the chat as we go through it. Also, help keep us honest. If we do get something wrong, let us know. We're always prone to getting something wrong. I tried to take as many notes for this as I can, so you'll see me glancing over it here a lot, because I wrote down a lot of high-level technical notes, because I think a lot of people still think AI is kind of magic. So I just want to, be like, hey, this is on the high level how it works. But before we get into that, I would like to remind each and every one of you that we are live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific with the Father and Son Gaming Podcast. You can follow us right here on all of our socials on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Spotify. It's so many words, so many places. We're at Active Reload Gaming. But on Twitch and X or Twitter, we're at Active Rel. That is an REL, Active Rel Gaming. So you can find this there. Also, join the Discord. QR code is in the top left corner. Feel free to join, start chatting with us, and so on. We'd be happy to see you there. Yeah, like my dad said, we'll have some more game streams throughout the week. Maybe I can hop in with Arc Raiders for him, but I think he has expressed a little bit of hesitancy playing with me because he feels that I might be too aggressive for his play style, which he hasn't seen me play, but he has heard me yell about the game multiple times. So we'll see.
I'm a newbie, man. I have to, excuse me, I have to build my benches and get my weapons up before you throw me into a fight that you're doing. I'd never survive. And
We
then
all
you make me look bad.
we all suffered. It's time for you to suffer too. You have to experience the
Playing
gameplay loop.
I've been playing games longer than you've been alive. I've suffered myself.
No, you need to experience the pain of Arc Raiders. But all that being said, this podcast is going to be separated into 4 parts. So the parts that we're going to be going over, we're going to be obviously starting with part 1, but it is going to be labeled what is AI, how is AI being used, the impact of AI, and then the end game of it all. What do we foresee in the future? Is Skynet finally going to rise and take over? And we're going to see a lot of Arnold Schwarzeneggers just running around and beating up bikers in a bar. We'll see. But all that being said, we're going to start. This is going to be a long conversation. But like I said, chat, feel free, hop in, give us your knowledge, give us your experience and what your thoughts on AI truly is. But we're going to start with part 1. What is AI? So as we kind of alluded to, AI has been this umbrella term that gets thrown around a lot. And I think when it comes to the conversations online, if you fester in those areas, it really has boiled down to, hello, Cole Eastwood. Welcome to the chat. Good to see you here.
Welcome.
Kind of festered into AI good, AI bad in a lot of areas from what I've seen. And it seems like there is no agreement anymore. And I think a lot of people also think AI is this magical being that spawned out of nowhere, which it isn't. There is statistics behind it, there is math behind it, and it's all data. So to start, I just want to go over what is AI. And AI is an umbrella term for systems that can perform tasks we normally associate with human intelligence. Examples of this is recognizing patterns, understanding language, making decisions, planning steps, or generating content. In modern practice, most AI is built from machine learning. Instead of a developer writing explicit rules for every situation, for an example, if X, then Y, the system learns statistical patterns from data. You give it examples, data, a goal, and it adjusts itself to get better at said goal. Within machine learning, there is deep learning, and that is a branch using large neural networks that can learn very complex patterns. That is what powers, what you see: speech recognition, image recognition, LLMs, which is what we're going to get into very soon, which is what I think a lot of people are using today. And a lot of modern recommendation systems. Think Netflix. When you go on your Netflix account and it says something that you might like based on what you were watching. So AI is the broad field. Machine learning is the dominant approach that you see in AI today. And deep learning is ML with large neural nets. Now, something that I know, Dad, you like to talk about with people is there are different pillars of AI. There's agentic AI models out there. There's generative AI. There's a quote unquote assumptive, which isn't a legitimate term, but it's what people largely associate these AIs with. So do you want to go over?
I'll break that down. And it's going to echo a little bit of what Kobe just said. One, there's what's called reactive. That's the lowest. Reactive or assumptive, excuse me, or assumptive has been around for a long time. Anybody that's have done Netflix and it said, hey, you watch this, you might like this. Or if you're out on Spotify and you listen to a song and it said, hey, you listen to this. So that's been there. The reactive, or what I like to call assumptive, that is human triggered. It only responds. It's only a responsive. That is the first level of AI, because there's only four of them. Then the second level is, I think, what's gained the most popularity with the general population. It's called assistive, or what I like to call is communications or communicative. That's human led. What that is you get on there and say, "Hey, Chat GPT, um, help me create an email." That's where you're communicating back and forth. And then there's the next level, which that helps people decide when they use that assistive. Then the next one that Kobe kind of talked about, which is agentic. Agentic is goal led. It's task based. It plans and executes. You know, hey, I have $20,000. I'd like to put it in the stock market. You know, where do you feel the best stocks are to help me grow this the quickest? That is agentic. That is a goal led, task based prompt that you're giving. And then the fourth one, which we just saw, anybody that watched anything from CES, is autonomous. That's self led, acts independently. So again, when you look at AI is four pillars.
And
Now,
did you talk about generative?
I did.
Okay.
Now, the thing that I want to step into is, everybody hears Chat GPT. Like, to me, Chat GPT is becoming the Kleenex of LLMs. An LLM, which everybody says, I'm going to go to Chat GPT and use AI. An LLM is a large language model. Large language models are ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Grok, Claude, Perplexity, Copilot. Like, they're large language models. Each one of those models is built in its own different foundation. So you literally could go to ChatGPT and ask it something, and then go to Grok and ask it something, and it would be similar but different answers that it gives. But the big thing with an LLM is it gives you answers that it feels that it wants you to know or hear. It's not this god being that's out there that, oh my goodness, it knows everything. It doesn't. It bases a lot of that LLM is language learning based upon you. And I'm going to give an example of how this differs. For those of you that may or may not know, I work in the television industry. So what I did was, I went to ChatGPT, I prompted it and said, I have $20,000 to spend in this geographic area, and I want to hit this demo. Because on television, it gave my television station should get this much, and this should get this much, this should get this. Then I have one of my employees that does nothing but digital, and I gave him the exact same prompt that he put in the exact LLM, which was ChatGPT, and gave him everything identical. And it gave him back, oh, you should do digital this, you should do digital that, you should do digital this. So the problem that I think we're running into as a society is, we're putting both feet forward into this, thinking that, man, it must have all the answers, when it really doesn't. It's learning with you. And that's the difference. And it's an LLM. It's not really the AI, the large language model that you're doing. And then I'll pass this back to Kobe in 1 second. I found out, using the large language models, that some do things better than other. If you wanted to go generate a image, I found Gemini to be one of the better ones. If you're going to go generate a piece of code, I found Claude to be the better ones. If you're looking at generalized conversation, I found ChatGTP to be the better one. So again, it just goes to show that, it's that old adage, an LLM is not an LLM is not an LLM. They're not all built the same. They're not on all the same level, and they don't give all the same responses back. So that kind of gives you an overarching field. Now, I will tell you that there's companies out there, and I'm trying, like Photoshop. Photoshop has an AI capability in it They're just pieces of AI that are built within different components, whether they're building it themselves or they're going out and you just don't see it. They go out to a chat GTP or a Gemini and use it on that. But if you want to talk about how much it's integrated into your daily lives, if you go to Google right now, that we all use to Google stuff, it has, would you want AI mode, getting it over to its Gemini. So it's integrated into what your daily use is at this point.
So I want to jump in because you said it's not magic, which is true. And Bombay in the chat says LLMs and other AI are only good as the data they learn from. You're doing super niche things, it's going to be very, very inaccurate, which is true. I feel like I'm going to give a short college lecture here for a second. So bear with me. We're almost done with part one, which is what the context is to lead into how it's affecting the games industry, where it is used in the games industry, or so on. So just I tried to make this as high level as possible. So here is on the back end the real mechanics of how AI truly works. Essentially, training is where a model's internal parameters of numbers called weights are adjusted so it gets better at a task. It is a 6-step loop, essentially. It uses data, lots of examples. This can include text, images, telemetry, etc. The model makes a guess. Given the input, it outputs a prediction. Compared to the target, compute an error, as we call loss. Then there's back propagation. It computes how each weight contributed to the error. Then there's a gradient descent. It nudges weights to reduce the error, and then repeats this millions to trillions of times. This is the core engine of modern machine learning. It optimizes weights to minimize loss. There's different training styles. I'm not going to go into all of them, but in terms of LLMs, the training style that it uses is what's known as unsupervised/self-supervised, which essentially it learns structure from the data itself. Now, with the LLM, which is what my dad was talking about, and this is like a chat GPT style model. Essentially, when you enter a prompt, your words aren't words. They are what are called tokens. It is just chunks of text. And an example of how a word might be tokenized by a tokenizer is the word unbelievable might get separated into 3 chunks of text. Unbelievable. So that's how a tokenizer might work. The back end then turns these tokens into numbers. Each token becomes a vector, which is essentially just a list of numbers. And the model's internal coordinate system, this becomes the internal coordinate system for meaning. Then there's known as the pattern engine, which is the transformer. At a high level, it looks at the context, your prompt, and your prior tokens. So anything that you've already inputted to the LLM, figures out which earlier tokens matters most. Then it updates an internal representation, and then it produces a probability distribution for the next token. Then there's what's known as next token prediction. The model outputs probabilities for what token comes next. Then the decoding method picks the next token. Greedy always picks the top choice. Sampling, pick among top options. Temperature, top P, top K. Controls, randomness/creativity. Then it repeats the step many times. This is why we said it's not magic. And this is what my dad alluded to when it says it tells you what you want to hear, because it is predicting the next possible token that might match the tokens that you've already inputted into the LLM. And this is also why you probably noticed an AI hallucinate so much before, because the core job is just producing the most likely next token given the context. So if you've seen, and even Bombay said this, it's only as good as the data learns from. So if the context within your LLM is missing facts or the model doesn't know, it's going to generate something that sounds plausible to you, but it is not grounded by a database or tool. So, or it's not forced to verify. That's why it gets haywire and it starts being like, you'd be like, hey, where's the nearest Burger King? Oh, the nearest Subway is 20 feet away from you. Go get a turkey sub. It's like, okay, whatever. So that's just kind of how the LLM on the back end works as a very high level overview.
But I think there's a part that's the ethical part of this is the AI is learning from everything out on the internet. So
Well, yes. So
when you go out and ask it something, for example, where the ethics comes in for me, if you go out and ask it something about coding, it can go out and scrape GitHub where those of you that don't know what GitHub is, it's a repository for people's proprietary code. And it can go out there with no gate whatsoever, take Kobe's proprietary code and give it to me because I typed in there and said, let's do this. So there's an ethical side of it, that it has free reign of everybody's data to learn from and to give to you, the end user. So there's an ethical side behind this as well. It's not magical.
Yes. Everything comes from a piece of data that has already existed, and all the popular models that people are using today has scraped the internet and continues to scrape the internet to feed its data sets. And then when you input your prompt, it uses your tokens and uses the context that it already has to generate something. Now, people might be asking, well, how does image generation work? And it's essentially the back end of image generators is a 4-step thing. It is, you start with noise, which is static, and it repeatedly denoises it step by step. And each step is guided by the prompt and sometimes an image/conditioning. After many steps, noise becomes a coherent image. That's why you'll hear sampling steps in image generation. Shemplu asks, GitHub can be private, does it have access to private code? It only reads what is publicly accessed, from my knowledge. But it also gets into the ethical side, which is there was a whole lawsuit where on GitHub, you can have the MIT license protect your work. And essentially, these AIs were completely overriding the MIT license, taking the code that has already been placed and incorporating it into the code that was being generated. So even if you have protections in place for public-facing repositories, the AI, at least it used to, completely go around that and still take pieces of code to fit what your needs are. So, lastly, what makes AI real in production? Some of the stuff people don't mention. There's data pipelines, which it collects, cleans, and versions data sets, evaluation, test sets, benchmarks, red teaming, fine tuning, training further on domain data. Then there's retrieval, augmented generation, fetching relevant documents from a database and feeding them to the model so it answers from your sources instead of guessing. There's guardrails and policies, and then there's also serving infrastructure as well. Is there anything else that you want to add on to the overall what is AI?
We started AI at the very low level and went to the top level here. I think we gave everybody at least a good foundation, technical down to the everyday, learning of what the difference is, AI, LLM, into the 4 pillars of what AI is.
Yeah.
I think we got a good foundation to move forward.
Cool. So it's not magic. We can all agree on that. It all comes from a particular math and science and probability. That's all it is.
Well,
So
before moving on, without getting dark, there is a lawsuit in court right now where there was a teenager that was depressed, and he was using AI LLM to talk to almost therapeutically, and it got to the point where he was getting bullied and so forth, and he did ask the LLM, what should I do? And the LLM, because it's not magical, it's telling you what it thinks. It said to kill himself, and he killed himself, and that is in court right now. So I only say that not to get dark, but to show that people are leaning on this AI or these LLMs that, like, oh my goodness, if it said this, it's got to be gold, it's got to be right, and it really is not.
yeah. So that leads on to part 2. How is AI being used today? And we're going to be focusing on the games industry entirely. If you have, any knowledge or facts or anything that you have input on saying how you use AI, feel free to throw it in the chat. We can talk about it, but we're going to be focusing on gaming today. So I think one of the biggest poster childs of AI that people tend not to think about a lot, but it's prevalent if you're a PC gamer. It's in your face consistently, and this is AI pixels in shipping games. DLSS produced by NVIDIA being the biggest proponent of this. So essentially, in the most mainstream, everywhere there is neural rendering, and essentially it is upscaling / super resolution, which the game is rendered at a lower resolution, then uses a neural net to reconstruct a sharper image. It also does frame generation. AI generates intermediate frames to boost FPS and smooth the motion. There's also denoising and reconstruction. AI helps clean up ray tracing, path tracing, noise, and artifacts. So, why do studios even use this? Well, it's an easier way to get a direct performance win and better optimization for the game. Now, there's the whole question, which I'll ask you, Dad, is we can go many different ways. And I think a lot of people have many different opinions about DLSS. Does this cheapen the game? And do you think we're at the end of where we're going to see classic rasterization in terms of graphical computing? Do you think we're hitting the cap and now everything is going to rely on AI? And do you think developers are going to rely on it too heavily at this point?
Now, again, when I look at DLSS, to me, that's the poster child of how to use AI. To me, it's enhancing my experience. It's not replacing my experience. It's enhancing the programmer's job, not replacing the job. So I think, and I've said this before, I think anybody that's a PC player and they look at the 5000 series graphic cards, and I've said this before, this is going to be the last generation that hardware is over the software. I think as you start seeing the leaps and bounds, because let's be honest, I don't know that they can make a graphics card any bigger to get into PC cases anymore. My PC case is going to be my desk soon because of the graphics card. So to me, I think as you start looking at the next 6000 series or whatever they're going to call it, I think that you're going to see less hardware, more software with this AI enhancement. I am fine with that because I think that we hit cap capabilities with whether it be your PC parts, whether it be your console parts, there's cap capabilities of it. So if I can use, a DLSS to enhance either the visual or enhance the frame rate, that I don't have to go out and spend $10,000 on a rig or, the new consoles coming out. I am all for that because that just helps enhance the experience. It doesn't replace the experience. And again, everything's getting more expensive, every day. The last thing I want to do is end up paying $6,000 for my next graphics card.
Yeah, well, might get to that point anyway. So, Gemplu in the chat says that they watched some videos of DLSS 4.5 turning ultra performance mode, which apparently sets the base upscale from resolution to something 640 by 480, and can upscale it to around 4K with details that are not seen at that 640 by 480. So another, sure. I know DLSS 4.5 is making some pretty big strides in terms of AI upscaling.
To me, the DLSS is an enhancement like ray tracing hit the ground running with that. It's just another enhancement, I think, to make graphic fidelity or performance better.
I will say, though, I do think optimization is quickly becoming a lost art form in terms of making games. I think when you start relying heavily on these tools, like at a certain point, like you got to ask yourself, does it cheapen the product? What does it actually do for the developer? Like, I think there's a lot of ways of looking at it. And are we going to see a cap at graphics at a certain point? Like, how much is this going to push? Because if raw computing power isn't going to be substantially upgraded or evolved over time, are we seeing the plateau now? And this is just like optimizing at this point.
But see, here's the thing, and I know you're in the industry, so I lean a little bit more towards, the developer. But the reality is AI is here. I would rather give and take than have it all or nothing. So if we're going to give up like a DLSS that we don't have as much work on the back end of optimization from a human being to shorten the time between games, the development time, that's one I'm willing to give up. I'm willing to say, look, yeah. I'm going to give that up to shorten the time, to save a developer's job, and use that as AI to help with it. So I'm willing to give and take because at the end of the day, when you look at the games, yes, if you jump in all AI, you're going to shorten the dev time. There's no doubt, and which means more games put out there. And I don't know how many more games you can play because there's so much good games out there now. But I would rather give it an all, some than a none, and say
I just want to pull on something. Bombay says they would give up AI in a second if it got rid of all the AI slop games off of game stores. So,
yeah, well,
but,
AI slop is, I think, that's a whole nother topic, in my opinion.
well, we're going to start moving into that. So the next part that I want to talk about of how AI is being currently used in gaming is animation, facial performance, and so on. So AI today is heavily being used in turning human performances into animation, and it's reducing the animator's workload. So, for example, there's facial animation from video, facial animation from audio, and real-time capture for virtual production and faster iteration. And a clear example of this is Epic built their tooling system known as MetaHuman Animator to kind of support these workflows. So why are people even using it? It's because facial animation is expensive and time consuming, and AI helps generate a high quality baseline animators can polish. So this isn't essentially taking the animator's job. This is kind of getting to a certain point for them to start refining. And also you AI facial animations have been around forever, where you can go to any modern RPG, modern open world game when there's thousands upon thousands of lines of dialogue, and you can't mocap everything, and the mouth syncs to the best of its ability to the words being said. That's AI trying to sync the mouth, the already rigged body to those words. So it's been around for the longest time. It's always been a tool that's here, and it's just consistently getting more and more refined.
And I agree. Again, you're back to my overarching theory of AI should help enhance a person's job, not replace the job. So to me, that's DLSS. To me, there's no difference in that.
So here's what we're going to start kind of bordering where we start getting into some ethical issues and where I think the slop is coming from. The next part that's currently being used in the industry is art and asset creation. So people have been using it for 2D content and 3D content. Now, I will give an example of a recent thing that came out. It was recently discovered that Sandfall Interactive, the studio that made Expedition 33, had experimented with generative AI early in the process to make some textures for the game. They came out and said they didn't like that tool whatsoever, and they felt dirty, and they retracted those tools from their workflow. However, an AI generated texture did end up in the final product the first week of launch, but then they patched it out when they found it. But there was AI generated content. So all that being said is a lot of people have been using AI, and even Larian Studios came out and said it, that they've been using AI to concept art with their artists. They're allowing to do that, but now they're retracting their statement as they're not going to incorporate that into the production Divinity anymore. So with art and asset creation, with 2D content, there's concept exploration, style variants, mood boards, texture ideation, material variants, icon drafts, and marketing creatives. With 3D content, Roblox, an example is Roblox has publicly described and shipped pieces of its Cube generative AI system aimed at generating 3D models and environments from text and exposing APIs for creators. So that is currently in the Roblox realm, that people can go and generate prompts and make 3D assets. Now, I just want to loop back and make sure everyone knows that this all comes from predefined data that already exists. So keep that in mind as this art and asset creation and we go forward happens. Another thing is Unity, the game engine Unity, has been consolidating Muse/Sentis into Unity AI, positioning as an editor-integrated AI tool, including agentic actions inside of workflows. Many studios treat these as rapid prototyping tools. Then artists lock the final content with human review for consistency, style, and legal risk. That is currently how it's being used in the art realm. Now, you can have your opinion on it. I have my opinion on it. I still think art and asset creation should be primarily done by the human. I don't like, you can even train a model off of your own art and data, but it's still like an AI model has already been built off of other pre-existing data. And I think it gets to a certain point where it becomes soulless. Like part of the soul in the human creation is, the human mind and experience when you're creating these pieces of art. AI can never replicate that. And you can definitely feel that. And, what we're talking about AI slop. Shampoo in the chat says AI slop is horrible. I used to not use Facebook much at all, but now I don't even go on, as every vertical video on there is just AI crap. And that's the thing. I saw, I think it was Troy Baker, the voice actor who's voiced Joel, Higgs from Death Stranding, a whole bunch of characters. He said AI is good at generating content, but it is not good at generating art. If you want something that's quick, fast, and AI will do it for you, but it is not art at the end of the day.
Well, like they say, and I jokingly say, and I can't coin this. I've heard somebody say it, that AI will never smell, taste, or touch. So
What does that
that's
make me? I can't even smell.
yeah, but that's kind of that soul.
Yeah.
Like it will
Yeah.
never give that. And the problem with when you're doing AI, for art, is it's stealing that style off of somebody. It's not their own, coming from their own mind or their own creation.
Yeah.
It's stealing that style from somewhere out there. Because I just saw where one of the LLM models just went to the biggest repository, it's over in Europe somewhere, of pictures, and they're letting it learn from pictures because they found that a child learns best in its infancy state when you're raising a child from seeing, not from reading or doing anything. And they're trying to build it up off of visual at this point. So
Yeah.
again, it's just learning from other people.
In terms of the art department, the next way it's being used is writing, narrative, and localization. So AI has been used as a first draft machine. NPCs, classic high volume writing task. When you have tons of NPCs in the world, they might use AI to generate, some short pieces of dialogue, like a shopkeeper or so on. Then there's localization support, which is translation drafts, terminology, consistency, and style guides. Then there's narrative support, variant generation, summarization, quest text drafts, etc. So why are studios using it? Mainly, localization scales brutally with content volume. So I think out of the three pillars here, the one that I see a good argument for is localization. But then there's also the ethical side of that, which is, well, what is the work of the translators at this point? Like I understand why developers are doing it, because localization is such a heavy, daunting task. But at the same time, I think when you're creating a game, you would want a good translation to happen. Like, we all remember back in the NES, SNES days, how horrible those translations were. Like, they were comedic gold. But I want a real human touching these translations. But the reality of the situation is a lot of AI is being used to localize strings. So now this is what we're dealing with.
Now, see, to me, this is another one of those give and take. Here's the reality, and I'm kind of going back to what I said earlier. AI is here to stay. So either we fight it and it takes my job completely away, or we accept and we try to, compromise with it. When it comes to a game and you're looking at the NPCs, I'm fine with that being AI generated. Keep the main characters personal voiced.
Yeah.
Like that to me gives the soul, because I don't think anybody in this that's watching this podcast would ever say, wow, that NPC really put the heart and soul into that verbiage, and that changed my whole opinion on the game.
Yeah.
But you can say that about a main character that put the feeling into it and gave that somber or that excited thing in it. So I'm fine with that compromise and saying let all the NPCs be AI generated. I'm fine with that. Keep the main characters to the human touch.
The next one is a bit boring, but it is massive in the tech world, and AI has been incorporated for quality assurance testing and production operations. So, for example, bug bashing, automated play testing, balance analysis, and so on. This has reduced the workload of testers, but at the same time, it can take testers' jobs. But it should be, if they're going to use this, it should enable the tester to, at least set what the tests are going to be, and then have the AI run it repeatedly and try to find it.
Now, you and I both had a close friend that was a tester for Epic back in the day.
Yeah.
And so when you look at his jobs, But this is where, again, the compromise from an end user, nothing's more frustrating than having a game come out that's massively broken, everything from steampunk to No Man's Sky, and that's frustrating to an end user. I think that we should use some AI because again, the AI is going to bug test 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'm not saying replace the people, but there should be some high level of AI testing to get these bugs out that when they ship the game that it's not as broken as we've seen in the past, decade here.
Jem Plu in the chat says, to be a devil's advocate for a second, from the other perspective, I've been using it a lot to learn. Working on my site, if something is not working or I need to figure something out, I'll ask Copilot, and it's helped me speed the process a ton by finding solutions way faster than I would have ever been able to find. So from that perspective, it's actually helping me out a lot. And I don't even think that's a devil's advocate perspective,
Correct.
Because it is, at that point, is no different than just doing a Google search and trying to find the answer. It's just now you're doing a faster Google search.
And to me, it's supposed to enhance you.
Yeah, and that's not replacing anything. That is just getting you faster to the answer. And I think that's where AI is good. And I think that's where it can help people out a lot, is the speed as it can scrape things. But like I said, that's not replacing anything. That's just enabling you. Bombay says AI can never replace the testing of a real person. AI can't possibly think about the silly things that end user will try to do. That's also another avenue.
100% agree. And that's where I said that you need to keep the testers, but at a high level, you need to have that AI running. But
testing is another art. So
it is. And Shem, I use AI in my everyday work and personal life as well. But it's not replacing it. To help me get smarter and to help me learn quicker, hands down. That's what AI is for. It's here to stay. It's not going to go away.
Another example of it being used today is skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking is pretty prevalent within the multiplayer scene. An example of skill-based matchmaking, this is a public research paper that you can go read, is Microsoft's TrueSkill, which is a very well-known example that explicitly uses to rank/match players in Xbox Live titles. And then we talked about it before, there's recommendation and personalization. What game should I play next? Which mode/map keeps you engaged? What bundle is relevant to you? ML is using ranking systems to kind of help give you content like that. And then there's also dynamic difficulty adjustment. This has been around for a very long time, Left 4 Dead being one of the earliest ones with the director, where it would dynamically change the flow of the game depending on how you're doing. Also, Dead Space did it, even the Dead Space remake, where if you were performing at a higher skill, the Dead Space would start to reduce the amount of ammo and health items that you can find. But if you were performing worse in the game and dying over and over again, then it would start to increase the amount of ammo items you get and the amount of health to do it. So difficulty adjustments dynamically have been happening for a very long time.
I wondered why there was so much ammo in my Dead Space remake. I'm thinking, wow, this isn't hard. But we just went over this in a past podcast and on our news podcast on Friday. Arc Raiders just they finally put that out there that they're kind of doing this true base skill as well.
Yeah. Another way that's been currently being used and people have been exploring, which is in with the trust and safety area. Activision has recently done the Call of Duty voice chat moderation. God, we don't know it needs that. It uses a module called ToxMod, which is an AI model. And essentially it flags toxicity with context beyond keyword matching. But that has been successful to varying levels. It is very hard for, I think, an AI to pick up on a lot of the context, but I think it can do some good in a lot of areas, especially when people are being very prejudiced against others within the Call of Duty lobbies. There's also
does that really happen, or is that fake?
What? Toxicity in Call of Duty lobbies?
I'm joking. That's being sarcastic.
Yeah, toxicity has never happened in Call of Duty. There's also anti-cheat and security. One example of it is Valve's VAC has been publicly described as using deep learning to analyze in-game behavior and feed cases into Overwatch-style human reviews. And Riot, the developers of League and Valorant, have also talked publicly about shifting toward more server-side, data-driven detection as cheats evolve. So this is kind of how it is everywhere. It is rapidly growing, and it's going to continue to grow within the games industry. But these are a lot of the areas I felt was the most interesting to kind of highlight. Shampoo says, "What I would really love for AI to do is stomp out cheating," which is that people are uh, experimenting with models to do that. So, with all that being said, now we get to move into the fun part, which is also the sad part. Part three, the current impact of AI. How is it affecting us directly as consumers? So, I think the first and biggest thing that we should get on the floor is pricing, the price increases, the RAM shortages that are all driving the AI data centers. I unfortunately need to use the restroom. So, Dad, can you take this over? Talk about how RAM is being jacked up to $400 for a 32 gigabyte kit and so on, and how essentially everything is being overpriced. And I'll be back in 40 seconds.
Okay. Part of the issue that we all know, and again, this is education, so some of you may know this, but some may not. Part of the problem that we're finding right now is because of all these LLMs, we all talked about it in the AI, they are driven heavily on RAM and now GPUs. They are making data centers all across the country. And that is sucking up all of the inventory for personal consumption of the RAM and the GPUs. So these companies, not going to name them, you can look them up, the LLMs, they have gone to the manufacturers in the world, which there's only, I think, three of them, three major manufacturers, and they had dropped gobs of money and said, I want all of your 2026 output. And some of them, some companies had said, we'll give you 90% of it, and they're keeping 10% for the consumers. Others, Crucial is shut down, that they are no longer going to be doing consumer based RAM, and the money talks. And what happens with that is when they're taking up all the RAM production, if you're building your rig for your PC, that's why you're seeing those $400 rates, and the GPUs are at $3,000. The consoles you hear all the time, at which we don't know, is this going to push back the launch of the next Xbox or the next PlayStation? And if they don't, it's not that it magically goes away. They pass that dollar on to you. So that's when you're going to get, and you can't necessarily look at PlayStation or Microsoft and said, what the heck are they doing? They're doing $1,200, $1,500 consoles. This is ridiculous. Well, it's not really them. They're trying to put it out to the consumer. But what's happening with these data centers, where it breaks it down, and the AI, where it breaks it down to you, is us as gamers. It is literally pushing us out of the gaming industry, because it's going to get so egregious with the rates that the majority of people aren't going to be able to afford it. If we were screaming that game prices went up to $70, that's a drop in the bucket compared to, hey, it's $1,500 for
And
a console, or it's going to be $5,000 to build a basic rig
and
computer.
did you mention that once the price goes up, it's never coming back down?
That's where I was going with it,
Yeah.
and that's the unfortunate side. This is where big companies get super greedy, and I'm not going to bore you with the examples, but once a company can see that they can get the price, even though their RAM prices might go down, they're not going to lower the price. But this is where a consumer has a voice. To me, this is just my opinion. The gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. If we decided not to buy that game that is all AI generated, or we decided that we're just going to put the line in the sand and not buy that graphics card, and that's where it hits them. That's where it's going to hit them in the pocket. Now, some of you may or may not know this, but NVIDIA came out and said they're going to be remaking the 3060 graphics cards, because they're on the old DDR4 and DDR is the double data rate transfer that they're doing. That's the older technology. So the new AI centers, data centers, they don't have any interest in the DDR4. So for NVIDIA to sit down and say, I'm going to appease the public, they're going back and dropping the 3060s.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous. We're regressing in technology when we're supposed to be progressing. I
Right.
think the next thing I want to take, and this is going to be more on the human side as well, with all of the AI. As much as we have came and preached saying AI should never replace jobs, it should enable. The unfortunate side is read the news. AI has been used to do headcount reduction in a lot of companies. This isn't a foreign topic. This is reality. It is happening. Look at articles coming out from Amazon. They just did a mass layoff at the end of last year of 2025 for AI spending. And they essentially are wanting people to do more with less. So now AI has become the justification for smaller teams, faster schedules, and more output per person. This will also increase burnout and permanent crunch, but it's just with different language, with different tools. And I think from a creative and skill side is when your whole pipeline shifts to prompt and polish, where is the craftsmanship in it? Where is the authorship? Do you truly own your style? Is the question. And over time, it can probably turn specialists into editors and curators rather than creators. And some will love that shift, some will hate that shift. It's going to come up to you of how you're going to enjoy that shift. Um, so
Let
I
me
think
just
that,
let me just jump on that statement real quick. And I said this to somebody before. What it's going to do is there's no specialized job anymore. You become a data inputter.
yeah,
So everybody is equal. You could be the
prompt
best.
engineers, as they're going to be called.
Correct. And that's a whole thing. I just took 2 seminars on prompt engineering. And what that's going to do is me, that has zero artistic talent, is going to put me on the level of a Picasso. We will be the both same at that level because we're all just putting a prompt in, and I will be able to do Picasso type level artistry with just a prompt and zero talent.
Yeah.
So it's going to put everybody on the same playing field, which your talent means nothing, and you're going to be a prompt engineer.
Yeah. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't mention is there's going to be more aggressive monetization and manipulation from this. I think that you're going to see a lot of machine learning driven pricing slash targeting that can push players toward higher spending. And I think it's going to rely on FOMO as well to maximize retention and encourage grinds. There's going to be a lot of A/B testing everywhere, which players will get different economies, drops in offers, which can feel unfair or predatory as a result.
Let me add to that. Right now, it is factual. Amazon, what they are using AI for is you can go out there and say, Kobe, I'm looking up XYZ microphone, and it's $20. I can go out there and type in the same microphone and it's $50. What they are doing is they are using AI to price based upon what my need is. And what they're doing is they're looking to see if I've gone out and searched 10 different places online for that microphone, and then I came back for it, they might charge me more. If Kobe just went on, knew what he was going in, but that's happening right now. AI is changing the pricing of Amazon of what you are buying.
I mean,
And people
that's
don't
been
realize
around
it.
even before that with airlines.
Sure. Of
Like
course.
airlines that you would go look at a ticket and it would be more expensive the next time you look at it. I got a couple things in the chat. Shampoo says if it's not Bitcoin mining, it's artificial intelligence. I'm sure next is going to be something to do with quantum computing. I'm going to go live in the forest. And then also says, oh God, I didn't think of it. AI sales tactics. Yeah, it's going to happen. I do know,
It's
I think
happening.
we
It's
have
happening.
said a lot of negative impacts. I do think there can be some positive impacts from this. One thing being, you mentioned it in the chat before, Shampoo, but anti-cheat fraud, it can help detect that. And I think you can see better anti-cheat systems and there can be faster fraud detection. But at the same time, there can be the adverse effect where AI is also learning upon that and incorporating more deadlier tactics for cheating, for fraud, and et cetera. So it's going to be an AI versus AI battle that is happening. Um, there's going to be we talked about a lot of the gameplay and development impacts as well, and the rendering impacts. That is all happening, good and bad. There's going to be more gameplay design impacts as well, such as more reactive NPCs. NVIDIA has been testing with, the NPC that you talk to, and it generates dialogue on the fly. There's also been, with Arc Raiders, there has been the controversy that arose, which is while Arc Raiders did pay its voice actors for the initial lines, it uses their voice to AI generate more lines for further updates to kind of talk about what is happening in the game and also reacting to what you are doing. And then a lot of people are going to be trying to do dynamic quests as well, where in order to keep live service games going, they're going to have AI develop dynamic quests. So it's going to feel a lot less hand curated. You're going to see a lot more repetition happen, and so on. There's also going to be, worse harassment and safety issues with AI. We're already seeing that. I think this might be a good time to quickly pull in, the Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney argues banning Twitter over its ability to AI generate pornographic images of minors is just gatekeeping, attempting to censor all of their political opponents. So we're already seeing AI within the gaming sphere and stuff using to harm and harass people as well. So that is a impact of all of this. And so on. Do you, Dad, good or bad, have any other impacts that you can think
Yeah,
of?
I think some of the impact being from a television station and a news organization, I see the biggest impact for people because, and I like to think I'm somewhat educated on the news, that I've got caught with a couple things. The AI, it used to be seen, the saying used to be said, a picture's worth 1,000 words and a video's worth 1,000,000. Now you see this video that's AI generated that the untrained eye is going to think that it's real and really blow everything up in a sense. It's going to get
Sure.
crazier as we get further and further through here. I've seen it with uh
So
uh
I want to
yeah.
say that this whole leads me to believe we're at the end, part 4, the end game. What is the end game of this all? What do we
Well,
see happening? I want you to continue.
I think one of the big things of the impact too is, in this, at least in the state of Pennsylvania, you've seen our electric bills quadruple. I mean, it's ridiculous because the amount of electricity that these data centers take up is is absolutely insane, and they're passing it on to us. You may or may not know this, but Microsoft last year or the end of 2024, for those of you that live in Pennsylvania, bought 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island back in the late 80s was almost the United States Chernobyl, that it melted down. They shut it down, so it's been inactive. Well, Microsoft bought it to light this back up to power nothing but their AI. So again, you're talking about a nuclear power plant to just power their AI. So that just gives you just a small idea of how much power consumption, and not only the power consumption, but I know where I live, they were proposing to put one in here, and they've been fighting it because of the water to cool these things. That they said that there was a study done. They brought in civil engineers that it would use up all of the groundwater to do this. Now I just read where they're talking about building them, under the sea, to help with the cooling. I just saw where China was talking about building them in the sky because it's cooler in the sky. So
I When you're talking about, I want to just bring up this statistic about water, just so all of you know that when the amount of water that is used for prompts is about roughly 45 milliliters per query, 500 milliliters for 20 to 50 questions on ChatGPT. Um, so, and then within a year, it is estimated or by 2027, it's estimated that 1.1 to 1.7 trillion gallons is being annually going to be used to power AI
For
and the
cooling.
prompts.
And just to let you know, and this is purely my opinion, you see the RAM prices, you see the console prices, you see, the PC prices and all this stuff, GPU. I don't think it's going to end in 2026. I think this AI computing and consumption of the RAM and the GPUs is going to go on at least until 2028 before you see any reprieve. So the biggest thing that we need to look at is everybody thinks this is a short-term issue, especially from a gaming perspective. Oh, this is a short-term issue. You know what? I'll just hunker down and it'll be over by the end of this year and we're fine. It's not going to be. This is here to stay and it's only going to grow. And I know you laughed, when Shimplu said about quantum computing. The minute that the quantum computing or the quantum chip hits the AI revolution, man, you're going to see this world turn like you've never seen it turn before. If you don't know what quantum computing is or the quantum chip, go out and research that. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I love technology. I like when things move forward, but I'm just looking at it from a gaming perspective and a consumption perspective. And like I said, when you only have three companies predominantly making this RAM,
Well, now
and
it's
I
only
had
two.
now it's down to two. And I just saw Kobe and I were talking. I think it was Asus that came out and said that they might jump into the RAM game and create it for consumers only. That's the only hope that we have is some non-player jumps in and tries to do it, because you're not going to see these normal companies building more, because I've read that too. Oh, they're just going to build more factories and output it. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to get a non-player to jump in.
I think another thing is, we talked about the hardware before, and as hardware starts to become more and more expensive, and I think a lot of average consumers are going to be priced out from being able to afford this hardware, I think you're going to see a lot of cloud gaming become the standard. Obviously, Xbox has been pushing cloud gaming. They got their infrastructure. Nvidia has their infrastructure. Even Amazon does. Google tried. But I think you're going to start seeing a lot more people use the TVs that they already bought or other devices that have these pieces of software that can stream your games. And I think that is going to be some of the future that we're going to start heading towards. Yeah, I think a lot of cloud gaming is going to become the norm as well. And I think we're going to see a lot more AI in gaming within the production pipeline. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot of disparity, which is you're going to see a lot of these games saying this was 100% human made versus some AI was being used in this. So I think there is a lot to the end game of it all. But AI is a bubble. It's going to burst at some point. And what does the ripple effect of that look like? I don't know. I don't think, we all joke, we're not going to get to Skynet territory. We're not going to have Terminator. It's not going to get to that point. But I think from a consumer standpoint, it is going to impact you greatly. And I think we're going to see every piece of technology, because every piece of tech uses RAM in some kind of way, it uses all these parts. You're going to see everything inflate to the values that we've never possibly imagined before. And it's gonna get rough out there. And like you said, it's not gonna stop by next year. It's gonna go until 2030, 2031, maybe.
Yeah, and Shem said in here about medical insurance and AI being used to diagnose early issues. I think I saw this. I don't think I'm fabricating this on CES. I think it was Sam Altman that came on and said that his one employee went to the doctor and had a pain in the leg, and the doctor said it's just muscle cramps, and the employee came home and typed it in Chat GPT and said, "Oh, it could be a blood clot," and they went in and said that, and he claims that it saved their life. That's stretching it a little bit, but I do believe AI is going to be in everything anymore.
I mean,
Like
look at
medical
CES.
industry. Yeah.
Every piece of tech that was announced at CES, pretty much, even all the gaming pieces of tech, had AI incorporated in some form. We even talked about it on the newscast on Friday with Razer's headphones that have built-in AI cameras that can analyze your gameplay. It's here. The other thing that I wanted to state, and you talked about the power of the consumer beforehand, is if you don't want this future, now is the time, because when developers and companies start to see that the AI that is infused in these products is selling, they're not gonna they're not gonna back off. They're gonna continue to innovate on that and push the boundaries even more. So now's the time to vote with your wallet on how you want AI to be incorporated into your consumption.
Maybe you don't care and you just want your games dev time down, then that's your prerogative. But to me, I look at it now, I'm really going to speak from the heart, to my screen on the left, maybe on your right. I have a son that's in the industry that, you know what, his job could be on tomorrow. I have, two friends on this chat that I know are in the tech industry or do something along that. Your job could be placed tomorrow. I have a friend that's in the medical field that could be replaced tomorrow. I mean, if you're okay with that, then don't speak with your wallet. But we are a gaming community that is multi-billion-dollar industry. We do have a voice. And again, I'm not this tree hugger, rah, 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 go out and conspiracy theorists, but I don't care how much money you have. I don't know that you want to lose your job. I don't care how much money you have. I don't know that you want to pay $1,500 for the next Xbox or $6,000 for your next GPU rig. Like, I don't know anybody that wants to really do that, at least the general population. I don't want to see a single game go up to $150 now. You know, again, that's where I think we can do something about this and just be mindful. And the biggest thing Kobe and I talked about before doing this is just educate yourself. Again, we're not telling you which way to go, one way or the other. That's up to you. And, but educate yourself to understand what kind of impact it has on your local economy, on your local environment, on your wallet for your electric bills, on your wallet for your next video game console, on your wallet for your next cell phone. I mean, it's going to impact everything.
Yeah. And, the one thing that we talked about, and you've theorized before, even with Dan from Planet Retro Video Games, that you think retro is going to come back in full
I do.
swing because of all this.
I do.
So,
I thoroughly believe that there's, again, when you look at gamers, there's not every gamer's equal. There's some gamers that could go out and buy every game they want and every console they want. And then there's the good portion of them that they don't have that discretionary income to go out and just buy everything. So they got to be selective, or even parents of kids. And I think that this bubble, until it bursts, is going to price at least 40%, my opinion, 40% of the gamers out of the new games. And once a gamer, always a gamer. You're not going to say, well, I'm just not going to game anymore. I think they're going to turn to the retro and go back, and it does. Retro means a lot of things to me. It doesn't mean that a kid that's 16 is going to say, now all of a sudden I want to play an NES. They can go back and ask their parents to go buy an Xbox One or an Xbox 360, even that far, or a PlayStation 4, and say, I'm going to play games that I didn't get a chance to play. Because you can go out and buy top shelf retro games for $3. Not every retro game is $400. Like, you can make a collection of PS4 top quality games. Give me $40 and I'll get 10 quality games for you on that retro. That's where I think it's going to go till this bubble bursts, because people just can't afford it.
I agree. But that's it. That's the AI spiel. It's here. It's unfortunately here to stay. But it's going to be used a lot. So, those who are watching, I appreciate all your input, and, how you see AI and the knowledge and how it's being used in your daily life. Those who watch after on VOD, feel free, comment, let us know. How do you feel about AI? How are you using it? Are you even using it? How do you feel about it in the games industry and so on? Very curious. I like to hear all sides of the coin. And to everyone, I hope we had a good conversation. I hope, we were able to enlighten some of you. I hope you learned something today, or if you knew all this, great. I hope you had a good time listening to this. conversation that needed to happen at some point, and I'm glad that we were able to do it now as AI is ramping up. And in February, Micron fully exits the consumer business, and all the PC parts are going to start going up a lot. So
Yeah.
it's here.
Yeah, they got rid of Crucial, which is their consumer side of it. So, but again, make sure you tune in. Kobe and I were debating if we do our Friday news podcast this Friday, but we think we're going to skip again. As we said, we're going to do every other week until we see. But we got great feedback. I mean, thank you very much
Yes,
to
thank
you
you.
guys on here and to the community. We got a lot of feedback of people that watched it after the fact. So again, thank you, and we may sooner than later see that come every Friday, because I think I had a lot of fun. I thought it was something that
it was fun.
brought a little bit different. And don't forget, this week's at some point I may be streaming. Stay tuned to our podcast. I may be streaming some Arc Raiders, either with Kobe or I might try to get back on with Dan from Planet Retro. I had a lot of fun. I want to play with Steve from Planet Retro as well.
Everyone in chat bully this man to play with me. He just doesn't want the smoke.
Yeah. And for those of you that did watch, Kobe over the weekend helped me get all my settings on OBS right. So this time when I play, you will be able to hear the game and you will be able to hear everybody in Discord that's chatting. So we got that straightened out, and I'm excited to get on and play. So I appreciate everybody.
And as a reminder, you can follow us right here on all of our socials on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Spotify. We're at Active Reload Gaming. Twitch or X/Twitter is Active Rel. That is with an REL, Active Rel Gaming. We hope to see you all there. Don't forget, we also have a Discord code in the top left corner. You can help join, talk to us, form some podcast ideas, maybe something that you would like to hear about or so on, or just come yap. Do whatever you want. So Cherry Tomato Boy says, thanks for the chat, lads, and play with Kobe. It'd be great content. I agree.
Yeah, I know, because I'll embarrass him, Cherry.
Yeah.
Or we need to get you on there too, Cherry.
We need an Arc Raiders squad. But all that being said, thank you to each and every one of you for watching, and have a great rest of your week. See you all next time.